Greetings and God bless. I just wanted to talk about how people push having pets. They have pets, and I just wonder if there's something dysfunctional about it. Um, like when I was a kid, there would be like I don't know, maybe 1 or 5% people was in grew up in New York City, so it was living and it's an expensive thing to have. It was expensive then, and it wasn't the best life for an animal to just be cooped up in an apartment. But it seems like it's kind of like a must have. It's kind of like, even like when I was in San Francisco in the 90s, there would be homeless people with a pet dog, and there's some sort of compelling thing that happens when somebody has pets or when they have children, and people will like donate to them, take care of them, give them opportunities, even if that person's not even qualified or whatever. It seems like um, having this dependent is it ensures prosperity to them. And so and I know that's a very mercenary way of looking at it, and yet this is what I observe. So when people are using the pets or the children as this checkmate chess piece kind of a thing, this tool for the person's own um, economics, finances, or whatever, like I do think I've seen this. I've heard, the offspring of people say that this is what their parents did to them. But so that aside, looking at how people they put the whole of their emotional sustenance on these animals. And, clearly these animals generally handle it. Cats are just being cats, and dogs love that merging, like dogs are just they're pack animals, so they can handle um, like the neediness, I guess, of human beings. And when people were out in the boonies, when people were pioneers and frontiers people, and so they had all their livestock, and there wasn't another person for another mile around. Okay, that makes sense. But what I notice is, and this is like a cliche, is when somebody's spouses die, or, some other family member. I mean, of course, if a child dies, that's just, you know, I mean, when anybody dies, it's horrible. But I have heard from people say that they were more sad about their dog dying than any other loss that they had. And this person was not a mean, psychopathic, like heartless person. They had strong relationships with family and stuff. And I've heard this too, like that this is the case. And I think because animals are animals, like they're not demanding the way, and they're not difficult and complex in an unpleasant way that humans inevitably are. Like I don't know any totally free flow, perfect relationship. I don't know of anybody who's had that. And if they have, there was probably some sort of something going on in on both parties, because that's what I've, because I'm like the third wheel. I've known couples, married people, and see like there's some stuff that they're not telling each other, to keep it all seeming happy. So I think the challenge and the opportunity for humans is to depend on other humans for, you know, your emotional stuff, rather than depending on an animal, because um, I think people have become emotionally stunted, and they also have unrealistic expectations of other human beings because a cat and a dog, uh, they're simpler creatures in some ways, and so you can't demand of a cat and a dog or whatever horse, bird, fish that you demand of your spouse or your child or your parent or your friend. And so that kind of manages things, and it makes relating to an animal more ideal. But I think we are losing our humanity um, by depending on animals to validate our humanity. And animals are great. I love all animals. They're awesome, and the only problem animals are the humans that aren't taking care of that animal. Um, but yeah, I think it's not healthy for people to always like to depend on the animal to be the focus. Like, I think people will have animals in the house because the marriage isn't good, and so they want to have but they will take care of or love the animal. And I think that's a band-aid, and it's not fair to the other people in your life. Because I've noticed since I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, like, people do not talk. And I have noticed people walking their dogs on their phone. They've like, I don't know, maybe it was like a few years ago, the dog would be trying to make eye contact with the dog, with the owner, and but the owner's like on their phone. So the owner's been hijacked by their phone. And now dogs aren't I don't notice dogs doing that look at the owner anymore because I think because the owner's on their phone, so the dog knows that the owner's not gonna look at them. So it's like now dogs are being, like, neglected even more than they already are, being left at home for 8, 9 hours a day, when people go to work. Because and I just think it's, like, really selfish in that respect. It's like the pet is left home all day, and, some pets might be just fine with it, but everybody I've known who had a dog or a cat, it's like they have to go home. They have to have, for dogs, they have to have the dog walker, uh, and, you know, because it's like, yeah, the animal is kind of imprisoned or whatever, and bored, because animals weren't meant to be kept in a box, all day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And yet I don't I mean, I'm, like, weirded out when people are spending, like, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year on their pets, with just toys and grooming and even, like, veterinary stuff. I knew this one lady who was just always living hand to mouth. She wasn't responsible about money, and she didn't even take care of her own self, but she spent hundreds of dollars on one of her multiple cats, like, getting, like, a blood test for, like, some major naturopathic kind of thing that this lady probably should have gotten for herself, but she was talked into getting it, by her vet, you know? And, yeah, uh I think humans are missing out, and yeah, relating to other people is tough, but I think when people are to provide a home for my cat or my dog, and I think a lot of people think that's great, and I'm just like, is it like that's like I don't think God's gonna be like, oh wow, that's great. Yeah, you did it all for your pet, you know? Like, that's no contribution to humanity. And the thing is like people who are like very into animals, they don't really seem to like people. And I think, yeah, people are challenging, but we're humans. And despite what some people are now trying to identify as an animal, um, but as unpleasant and challenging. I mean, I'm not saying be around toxic, abusive people, but if you have decent enough family, friends, neighbors, I think it's important to interact with them. And I must say, I find it even challenging now with 2020 and everybody trying to push their medical belief systems on me or everybody else. So now there's all this division. So it's hard to make new friends. But if you have people that you can relate to, I think that should be the priority instead of your cat and your dog. Um, and yeah, because it's just like maybe they're good role models or whatever. And I did learn like I in my last relationship. Um, my boyfriend got a dog at the time. My boyfriend at the time got a dog, and I learned, the dog taught me stuff. But I think it's like there's something more. You're shaped more when you're having a real relationship with a human being. And I heard that a lot more people adopt in 2020 and onward. And I think it just keeps people more insulated, more isolated, because when you don't have a pet at home, like this creature that gives you unconditional love and that you can't demand anything more than its catness or dogness, like people would, in the 90s, those who didn't have pets, and even those who did, like they would go out. They would go out after work and they would take classes and stuff like that. And now everybody has pets, everybody's addicted to their phones, and there's not even people out and about like there used to be. I watch videos of walk and talk people walking around New York City, and I'm like, there's like a tenth, maybe an eighth of the people walking in major touristy areas than there were when I was a child walking in that same area. So, I mean, definitely a lot of people, you know, were priced out of the city because it's like rents are, I don't know, $6,000 a month. Like who can pay $6,000 a month, especially when places are asking for triple, like they want you to have a deposit and they also want your income to be like triple what the rent is. So you have to make $12,000 a month. Like who makes $12,000 a month? And what I don't understand is like like how can everybody be making $12,000 a month when folks are like delivery people or whatever, and I guess they're just grandfathered into somebody else's rent controlled place. Uh, but I think people are, they're not even going outside anymore. Although, every place I've lived where there's like touristy days or festivals, there are people out and about. So there are some people traveling. And I don't know, maybe it's their once a year, getting out of town kind of a visit. But yeah, it just seems like there's just fewer people out. And I think, people are just at home playing video games, just on the internet, and they have their pet there. And why go out and have the human experience? And what if like with the new all the AI and uploading people's consciousness to the internet, to the cloud, to the metaverse. So when people no longer, because I think the globalists want to damage our bodies so much, like with the genital mutilation of children, and so they're breaking people's bodies deliberately. And then they're going to say, oh, well, just load yourself to the metaverse and then you'll have a body. You can change your body. You can be a man. You can be a woman. You can be a dog. You can be a giraffe. You can be a robot. And they're going to try to seduce the ignorant with promises that technology will give them everything. And of course, it's not. Like, that's the thing about being seduced by Satan, is not only is the offer, the promise, like it doesn't work. You lose so much. You lose stuff you didn't even know you had. Like, you enter upon a nightmare, upon a nightmare. I mean, it's so when folks are going to be seduced into selling their souls, loading their minds to the metaverse, what's going to happen to their pets? Like, they're not going to, the globalists will be like, oh, well, your pet will be in the metaverse. No, no, it's not. Like, that animal is not going to be loaded to the metaverse. It's not going to be the same. So, what do you guys think? I know I went all over the place, but yeah, as hard as it is to not, because I think having pets is a bit of a crutch. I think it's an emotional crutch, and I think it fills a space to be filled by good friendships and good relationships with family. But maybe I'm too idealistic. The thing is, though, we did have it before, like before, before the 2000s, because when I lived in San Francisco in the 2000 early 2000s, like, very few people had pets because nobody would accept people with pets as a renter, and it also just keeps your life a bit more streamlined when you didn't have to worry about finding a place that accepted cats or dogs. Um, and so then you looked to humans for your emotional needs. And the thing is, now people look to technology. They look to their phone to fulfill them. They don't, and and animals. And I just, like, I don't know. Uh, I think people should not depend on animals so much. And, and it is a replacement for God, because you're like, oh, that cat is so wonderful. And you're gonna play with, gonna cuddle the cat and cuddle the dog or whatever. And, like, does that interfere with Bible study, with fellowship? And I know this is, like, kind of a strange topic or territory or whatever, but, just like, does one smartphone interfere with Bible study and fellowship? Like, when people are reading their Bible on their phone, when pastors are doing a sermon off of their phone, I'm just like, what is going on? It's so, I mean, the thing is, it's a scrying mirror, like, a phone is a crystal ball of sorts. It's just not ball shaped. So, I mean, I use a computer. I don't have a smartphone. Mirror, it's a type of crystal ball. And I think that caution needs to be made when using that, especially, when you're doing um, a sermon for your congregation. But I'm a bit of a purist and a Luddite, so but I feel better when somebody's reading off of a piece of paper and using a hard copy of a Bible, because there's just like, why radiate yourself? Because it has electromagnetics on it, and who knows what is going on with the pixels, you know? Like Satan is probably heavily involved with the development of all of these electronic devices. So I just think, like, it's just good to be aware of that. So thanks for watching, and God bless.